Hi, I'm CJ and this is my RC channel. In this video I'm going to be unboxing and setting up a Mini Z MR-03EVO. This is a 98 millimeter wheelbase. It's the most popular length. It's also the wide front end, which is also again the most popular. These cars do not come with a body, they do not come with a transmitter, they do not come with a receiver. This is not a ready set. And that's a good thing. This is if you actually want to get into Mini Z racing, this is the way you want to go. I do not recommend starting with a ready set. They are problematic. The radios have terrible lag. They lack all of the good adjustments that you want from a high-end radio and really need if you want to be competitive. So spend a few extra bucks, get yourself one of these cars. Get yourself a standalone transmitter that's going to work with one of the micro receivers that are designed to plug into these cars, and then get yourself a body. This does not come with a body, does not come with wheels and tires. Those are all things you're going to need to get. What it does have is, over a lot of the ready sets, this has a full set of ball bearings. A lot of the ready sets don't come with bearings. If they do, they're more expensive. It has a ball diff. It's got the oil shock. It's got the hardware is all Allen head as opposed to Phillips head. There's a whole bunch of features that make these better, in addition to higher end electronics, brushless instead of brushed motors. This one in particular comes with an 8500 kV motor. It's one of the faster motors available for the car. As I mentioned, you need to get a body, and there are several ways you can go. You can get the fully dressed out bodies like this McLaren P1, and this is one of my favorite bodies. It's incredibly high detail. I'll give you some close-ups on this. These are called auto scale bodies, and though it looks like it's a complete car, it's just a faux chassis with some metal rods for axles, and you've actually got a set of wheels and some tires that you can use, but you're going to want to upgrade those tires. But it's a good starting point. Now, this body you probably don't want to race with because you don't want to tear it up. It's a nice body to display your car, but things like the side view mirrors are going to get tattered. The paint gets all trashed from banging up with other people. So what you can do is buy the Kyosho body in what they call a white body, and it's basically just white plastic. You get a set of wheels, you get all the little trim pieces, you get the window glass, everything is there, but it's unpainted, and it's also unassembled, so you've got to do a little gluing and you got to do some painting, but this allows you to prep up a body that only costs you about $25 as opposed to about $50. So if you damage it, bust it, scrape it up, it's not as big a deal. So this is the same car. This is a McLaren P1, just like the one I just showed you in the box, fully dressed. So I will be going over assembling, painting, etc. in a separate video. I'm going to go over configuring this car, setting it up, putting a receiver in it, and getting it ready to race, and then I'll be running on my home track. I've got an RCP track, and I'll be going out to the local track and running with all the people there and filming some of that for you guys. So there's a lot to look forward to in the Mini Z arena. Let's have a look. This is a new Mini Z chassis. It comes with a wide front end with the motor mount. 8500 kV brushless motor included. So let's go ahead and open this up. Sorry for not being ready with the knife. Trying not to rip the box apart. So we have shock oil. We have our little radio cover. Variety of motor adjusters. And some spare suspension pieces. That's nice. These are probably going to give us some options as far as caster, possibly camber. That is a shock part right there. We've got an extra spring and some spring tensioners so we can adjust preload. We've got a few other little pieces here. We'll figure out what those are for as we go. Let me just set those down. A lot of times the easiest thing to do is just to cut these see, they're attached to a very delicate part of the chassis. It's these little battery trays here. Do not just try to yank it off the cardboard. You'll wreck the chassis, and rebuilding these things is almost, let's just say it's a lot of work and it's difficult. A lot of very small parts, getting the servo and things like that switched out. Tough to say the least. So here we have our chassis, and we should have a couple of battery covers in here somewhere that will basically little covers that are going to hook into these little pieces here, and here, and they're going to latch down here and lock our two batteries in place on each side. So that's 4 AAA batteries. Definitely get rechargeables. This is our rear pod, and as you can see, it swings left and right on this little tongue here. This is an optional item that we can replace. You can get these tongues in fiberglass and carbon fiber, and depending on the width and thickness of them, they will be stiffer or looser. That is a way of tuning your suspension. I mentioned in a previous video about adding weights to these chassis. These grooves here that separate the batteries, there is a set of brass weights that you can put one or multiples of them in here, glue them in place or tape them in place, and add weight to the bottom of the chassis to help keep it on the road. So as you can see, we have single A-arm suspension. In other words, this lower A-arm on either side is fixed, and our suspension moves up and down. We have a little castering arm here. This swing arm is on a pivot point right there. Hoping that this is being seen. As you can see, I can press down on it here. There's a spring under there, and we can swap those springs for different strengths. So this slides up and down on that arm. Okay. Now there is a suspension modification that basically flips that pin upside down so that the pin slides and not the suspension piece here, the steering yoke or steering block. And that is a more efficient setup. I'll talk about that in a future video. Looks like they've given us the cheap little plastic wheel nuts. I definitely recommend getting some aluminum lock nuts. You can get them in various colors, but they are a cheap upgrade. You can get them in packs of 4 for about $5, in packs of 10 for about $8 or $10 or $11. Definitely a good upgrade. Because these will wear out, they can loosen on you, they can strip. Definitely go with metal. So we have a ball differential here, so if I hold one side here and turn, you can feel it spooling, and we get an opposite action at the other side, like that. You can see one side is turning one way, one side is turning the opposite. So we got a nice metal ball diff in there. You definitely get higher end components when you buy the chassis separately as the MR-03EVO versus buying a ready set. We also get a brushless motor and brushless electronics. Again, a huge upgrade. This oil shock is most likely not going to have oil in it at this time. Kyosho, because these cars tend to sit for a while before they get delivered sometimes, they generally send their shock absorbers with no oil in them. They don't want the oil leaking, getting into the electronics and stuff like that. That's why they give us a full bottle of it. This is not going to remain stock as it is. This will change over time. I've got a variety of mods planned, but right off the bat, I'm going to start running it just as is, and then incrementally make some changes, and I will show you all of those changes and things you can do to improve the car, get better performance out of it. But for right now, we need to put our receiver in the car and bind it, and then we'll need to get wheels and tires. It does not come with wheels and tires, as you can see, and it comes with this locked-in motor layout. Now, if we wanted to go with a shorter wheelbase body, we would need to make changes. Likewise, we have the wide steering, but I would bet they give us the parts to change to narrow steering. So we'll explore all of these different things. Okay, now they mentioned that we can change from, we have two different sets of arms. Our stock arms, we have a 1 degree of caster, which gives us a sharp steering feel, and 3 degrees of caster, which gives us a dull steering feel. That's the way they're describing it. They also note that if we change the caster of 3 degrees, that may interfere depending on the body and wheel offset. In other words, basically we are tilting the steering angle backwards slightly, and that is going to move the front tires rearward slightly, thus slightly altering our wheelbase. And again, with these cars, you know, these are cars of very minimal change. What that might mean is that when this is mounted in a body with 3 degrees of caster, our front tires might rub on the inside fender wells of the body, and we would need to be aware of that potential and possibly shave a little off the body, something like that. So things to bear in mind. We have to remove and install the shock unit, and put in oil. It does have a single seal. It's a fixed piston. We can't change the piston, so the only way we can tune these shock absorbers, other than adjusting preload, to change the damping, we can change the oil to thinner or thicker oil, depending. There's also the ability to modify these and use a friction damper. Let me just see if they, don't believe they provide that. That does look like we have the narrow front end parts, and I do not see any parts for the friction damper. So that would be something we would need to do separately. They do describe the shock installation, and let's see if they give us any handling information on what to expect. Now they just give us a list of a few option parts. There's of course, you can get extra springs in different levels of tension, of hardness or stiffness, and they have oil available from 100 to 400. And of course, the higher the oil, the higher the damping force. All things we should expect if we have any RC car experience. The directions really don't give us a lot here. They don't address any of the parts here as far as how to use these to change motor position, how to change to the wide or narrow front end. I don't think I'm going to need any of these parts right off the bat. Okay, in this bag we have our two battery bulkheads or retainers. Just snap on like that. And we have our cover for our receiver hatch. So that would go on like this when I put the receiver in. This is a wheel nut wrench, and you just you use it like a little socket wrench to remove and put the nuts on and tighten them. And this is our binding stick for binding our receiver. So let me get out the receiver. This came with my FlySky Nobel NB4. Came with a pair of them. And this is the bottom side. This is the top. Avoid touching electric circuitry anytime you can. You don't want to short circuit it. Literally, the static from your hands can destroy electronics. So always hold PCB boards by the edges. If you have a grounding strap, definitely use one. So as I was saying, there's a little port right here that is going to plug in right there onto that PCB board, and it's just going to snap in place. So we can tilt our antenna upwards a little bit, and we just place this in, and just you can press on the bind button to seat it. That should be seated. So now we can put our antenna through the little slot there. That's the more elliptically shaped one. And snap that down, and the round hole allows access to our binding switch. So now it is ready to bind. Let me grab some batteries. And you can see your directions, so you know how to orient your batteries properly. So positive and negative, negative and positive. They definitely are a little tight at first. I believe these tabs are gold coated brass, and they're very, or they may be gold coated steel. They're very stiff, so it takes a little effort to snap the batteries in. Let's easier to go positive side front and then snap that in that way. They'll loosen up in time as you use this. And getting the rearmost batteries out can be difficult. That's one of the reasons there's a little cutaway here and here. You can push from there to snap the front of the battery out. You could use a small plastic tool as well, but be careful not to damage the battery casing. So let's see. Do we have a power switch on here, and where is it? They're usually on the bottom. I wonder if it's on as soon as you snap in a battery. I don't recall anything in the directions telling us one way or another. No, there's nothing that gives us the layout of the vehicle and any controls on it. These ports are for, one is for communication, changing and upgrading software. The other is for a light setup if you are inclined to do that. Where is... There it is. Right there in the center. No nomenclature or anything to let you know what it is. So, a lot of cars, you need to... let's put this in bind mode to begin with. I'm going to hold down the bind switch while powering on the car. And now we are bound. Not. There's reverse, forward. Okay. So the car is ready to go now. With the exception of course, wheels, tires, body, etc. But now I can go into my radio and I can select, I'm in Model 1 Select, I'm going to go to Name, and well, I need to back out the old one. Mini, let's see.
Please confirm.
Oh, damn it, shouldn't have done that. Looking for special characters here. I guess we don't get any hyphens. Let's do mini Z, capital Z, space, MR 0. Wait a minute. Ah, we do have special characters. I see. Dash Z space MR dash 0 3 EVO. I guess we can't do that. So I'm going to leave out the dashes to save letter space. Call it Mini Z MR-03, and I'm going to call it 98 for the wheelbase. No, wrong one. There we go. So, Mini Z MR-03 98. That's going to let me know that this is like if it was my GL car with a 98 wheelbase, I would call it GL or Mini Z GLR, and 98 again, and or 102 if I was using a long body. Anyway, that just is the naming scheme I've come up with at the moment to help me save these cars as something I'm going to recognize easily. So if I wanted to, let's say I'd done a bunch of settings and I bought another one of the same chassis, I could go to model, and I could go to this model and I could click copy model, make a copy of it, give it its own custom name, and have all of the existing settings already there for it, all the things that I know work with the MR-03 chassis. Just little things that advanced radios let you do to help you keep everything squared away. So,
shutting down.
Car is off. Turn off the radio and continue charging it. In case you are unfamiliar with Mini Z, you need to attach the wheels and tires together either with glue, or most people use a very special two-sided tape. PN Racing makes it. You can also get a tape by Kyosho, and that is the preferred one, is the Kyosho brand. It's a specific, I think it's called Route 246 is their Mini Z race group, and I will demonstrate wheel taping in a future video, tire taping, and I've also got a tire truer that I will demonstrate how to grind your tires down, get them to the completely circular, even size, how to smooth the tires and round the edges a little bit, prep them for racing, which is extremely important with cars this size. Bear that in mind, that the small things matter far more on these cars than they do on the larger ones. Don't think that just because the car is small that it doesn't need to, you don't need to be worried about precision as much. It's far more important. Things like stiction in the suspension are very important, that you get rid of any stiction. I'll be going over this front suspension, and we'll cover all of that down the road here. I've got different front springs. There's a lot of tuning options that you get for these cars. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please click like, please subscribe. If you would like to donate to the channel, that would be a huge help to me. I'm a one-man operation here. I'm not affiliated with any hobby stores or sponsors. I pay for all of this out of my own pocket. So if you'd like to make a one-time or a monthly donation of even a few dollars, please go to the home page, or down in the description you'll see a PayPal link where you can click donate, and you can use any major credit card, debit card, or other payment method. So any help is always greatly appreciated. Thank you very much, guys. And don't forget to click like and subscribe and click the bell icon.